So, confession. Yeah, I'm a bit insecure with this video. Don't click off. It's not because I think it's bad, but it started out with me really wanting to talk about why I love this movie and then snowballed into the concept of biopics. And I feel all of my thoughts spilled out into the script in a way that maybe isn't the most cohesive. And I've only really scratched the surface of this topic. I might do a part two. Not anytime soon. I hope you enjoy what I got. I do like some of the editing choices in this one. But yeah, now I feel like I'm rambling, so I'm just gonna.
Only a fixer like Olivia Pope could turn around how bad the PR for biopics has gotten. Believe it or not, 20 years ago, people actually liked them. Always Oscar bait, but bait that was enjoyed. Now, thanks to everyone's annoying cousin social media, we have critiques on critiques of the genre. I'll note three before getting into what I'm actually here to talk about. 1. The actor doesn't look like the real person. Definitely the most superficial of the complaints, as they usually take place before anyone has seen the film. A good actor embodies their subject, and that should take priority over finding a physical carbon copy. All Eyes on Me, a perfect example, where Demetrius Shipp Jr. looks like Tupac, but doesn't feel like Tupac. 2. Historical inaccuracy. No real pushback on this one. I mean, if you're gonna tell a person's story, it's only ethical to get the shit right. Details being altered is one thing. Complete fabrications that end up impacting the very essence of a person's story is another. 3. The subject's loved one should be involved or provide approval. In theory, this is nice. In reality, doesn't always warrant the outcome you think it will. For anyone who suffered through the abomination that was Back to Black from last year, you know. It's been said by director Sam Johnson Taylor that while she did meet with Amy's family, they had no creative control over the film's content or direction. But Mitch looked pretty good. Mitch, Amy's father, who sold the rights for the biopic to get made in the first place. The same Mitch who in the documentary Amy was portrayed as a selfish, greedy stage dad who mainly cared about exploiting his daughter's talent for financial gain. But what is the truth? To be clear, I couldn't care less about Mitch Winehouse. For the information available and the patterns we've seen in the entertainment industry, I think most of us can agree on a consensus where that truth lives. I'm making a larger point. When someone dies, the only ones left to speak about them, for them, are those who knew them. And what does that look like when ego and perception can so easily distort reality?
Maybe there were 3 separate Frankies, and each of us got a piece.
Why Do Fools Fall in Love is a biopic drama covering the life of Frankie Lyman, lead singer of pioneering rock and roll group The Teenagers. No, I'm totally kidding. This isn't really a biopic or about Frankie at all, but in order to talk about that, I have to go back and talk about this. 1950s Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon. It follows 4 people recounting their own version of a man's murder and the essay of his wife. I'm not going to rehash the whole thing because it's pretty accessible, and everyone should experience it on their own. But the gist is each character's retelling of the event drastically contrasts with the other. The film never provides a definitive truth, instead highlights the elusiveness of objective reality, and more importantly, the lies we tell ourselves and others to maintain perception. In an essay, Norman N. Holland wrote, "The movie plays with the very idea of representation in fiction and art. This is a movie about believing in a movie that you can't believe in. And not just film. We can't believe in our fellow human beings or our own senses. We humans can only see the world through our own drives for wealth, status, or sex. We think we see facts, truth, the world, but we are egotistically focused. This birthed what we refer to today as the Rashomon effect, a phenomenon highlighting the unreliability of eyewitnesses, often used as a storytelling device, like Why Do Fools Fall in Love? As I said, this movie isn't about Frankie Lyman, played by Mr. Range himself, Larenz Tate, who honestly does not get the credit he deserves. Dead Presidents, Menace to Society, Love Jones, my guy can play anything, but yeah, not about him. It's about the three women each asserting to have married Frankie and deserve claim to his estate. Similar to Rashomon, it's a trial, taking place primarily in a courtroom. We hear from the talent scout who initially managed the teenagers, Little Richard, who funny enough plays himself as he and Frankie were friends, and the big bad music exec who signed him. Then we have petty thief Elizabeth, superstar Zola, and school teacher Amira, each sharing the nature of their marriage with the deceased. Every scene of him is presented as a flashback with one conflicting event of the same account, moments where others scoff at certain details as Frankie would have never done that, and the timeline jumps around, forcing us to fill in the gaps. But that's life. The reality is we don't have much to go off as he passed at the age of 25. His childhood filled with drugs and older women taking advantage of him, with his talent attracting the music vultures ready to exploit. Even his career only lasted a short time, 2 to 3 years tops, marrying these women in the final years before his overdose. A true tragedy. Over the years, I know some have expressed disappointment with the film, wishing it was your average musical biopic, and I totally get it. There is a story here about how young black boys are often neglected, and victimhood isn't afforded to them. But what I loved about the movie we got is a deconstruction of the biopic. How people can experience the same soul yet see different sides, all going back to bias, ego, perception. And gets even more fun when the subject has their own warped sense of self.
Treadwell was, I think, meaning well, trying to do things to help the resource of the bears, but to me he was acting like he was working with people wearing bear costumes out there instead of wild animals. Those bears are big and ferocious, and they come equipped to kill you and eat you. And that's just what Treadwell was asking for. He got what he was asking for. He got what he deserved, in my opinion.
Werner Herzog's Grizzly Man is a documentary detailing the life of Timothy Treadwell, a man who lived amongst coastal brown bears in Katmai National Park, Alaska, for 13 summers. During that last one, him and then girlfriend Amy Huguenard were killed by, you guessed it, a bear. Over 100 hours of video footage was shot by Treadwell during the last 5 years of his life, Herzog extracting sequences to help find the truth in who the man was, along with interviews of loved ones as well as environmentalists and locals expressing frustration with his seemingly selfish acts. As empathetic as the documentary is, we're given context that was hidden in what Treadwell himself wanted to portray. From his footage, we see mentioned numerous times he's out there on his own, alone, bear and man. But that's not true. Herzog shows us 3 clips of Amy, and thanks to the pilot who routinely flew him out there, we know she accompanied him several times before that last day. Pretty much every interview in Grizzly Man has this uncanny staged feeling to it. They all feel so hyper aware of the camera, and editing choices imply certain scenes had to be filmed multiple times, losing the authenticity often praised within documentaries. However, this is intentional, contrasting the natural feel Treadwell has in his own footage, but it's not natural, because we also see him perform several takes, sometimes of the same sentiments. It becomes an exploration of how so easy it is to perform when in front of an audience, to be perceived the way you like, to have the legacy you want. Documentaries are seen as the films prioritizing a discovery of truth, but like any film, a narrative must be presented, and it will always be framed from the director's eye. Herzog clearly had a level of admiration for Treadwell, simply from his own filmmaking. You can hear it with how he narrates certain shots, almost like a dialogue is being had, the best you can with a dead man. But this would be a very different film if an environmentalist was at the helm. There's a moment where Treadwell says something interesting.
I have no idea if there's a God, but if there's a God, God would be very, very pleased with me. If you could just watch me here, how much I love them, how much I adore them, how respectful I am to them, how I am one of them, and how the studies they give me, the photographs, the video, and take that around for no charge to people around the world. It's good work. I feel good about it. I feel good about myself doing it. Thank you so much for letting me do this. Thank you so much for these animals, for giving me a life. I had no life. Now I have a life.
I feel good about myself. Is that a statement of altruism or someone with a savior complex? We, the audience, can make that judgment for ourselves, but what was actually going on underneath is something everyone is left to fill in the gaps for. There is no definitive truth regarding that, as he's no longer here. And even if he was, one still has to surrender a level of control to get to a truth outside of themselves.
Why haven't you done any interviews in the past few years?
Because I hate them.
Why?
I just hate them. I hate talking to people I don't really know. It's the media, basically, built me up being a real ogre and a tyrant on stage, because the way I come across on stage, I'm very volatile, and that's the only part they see of me. I mean, if I don't talk to everybody, so they don't really know the real me, and I don't think anybody will.
I watched the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix a couple months ago, and it was pretty good. Learned a lot, and the best thing about it was getting to hear the woman tell her own story. But something came out later that gave me a laugh.
After watching the film at its premiere in New York last week, Stewart has notes. The self-made billionaire says that she felt Cutler chose to use the ugliest angle of her interview, adding she hated shots of herself appearing to walk with a limp in her garden, explaining that she was recovering from a surgery. Those last scenes with me looking like a lonely old lady walking hunched over in the garden, boy, I told him to get rid of those, and he refused. Stewart also felt Cutler in the film focused way too much time on her 2004 trial and prison sentence. It was less than 2 years out of an 83-year life. I considered it a vacation, to tell you the truth. Stewart also says that she would have preferred rap music to the lousy classical music Cutler used, adding her friend Snoop Dogg should have scored it.
Now, the public consensus, at least from social media, came away loving Martha, feeling she was a badass in an era where she was misunderstood and targeted for the worst thing a woman can be. Not nice. But from her vantage point, she looked like an old, lonely spinster. I'm not mentioning this to say Martha is wrong about how she feels. I'm again making a larger point about self-perception and how documentaries are not absolved from possibly running into the same issues many have with biopics. Martha Stewart is a perfectionist, which most likely means the only person who could make a biopic or doc about her life she is satisfied with is her. Shortly before Freddie Mercury died, he allegedly told his attorney, "Do whatever you want, just don't make me boring." And 27 years later, one of the most boring, uninspired biopics about one of the most theatrical, unique artists of our time came out. The magic comes when some public figures are so authentic and honest they give their blessings to share their messiness and mistakes, something Mercury was already allowing on his deathbed. Ray Charles, too. My introduction to him being this movie, and not only did I see an iconic musician who overcame enormous obstacles, especially in that time period, I also saw your average man. As a kid, it was the first time in media I remember seeing a portrayal of someone disabled that I didn't really like. He was a victim to some things, but a perpetrator to others. And Ray Charles himself had no problem with any of those truths being seen by the masses. It's one of the reasons I find the film is still so memorable after all of these years. When people bring up the good ones, Ray is always in conversation. There are separate instances where loved ones of a public figure who has passed are, no surprise, very protective of their image, so much so to admit impactful details from their life. Damon Wayans recently spoke on his involvement with a Richard Pryor biopic that has been in developmental hell for years.
Because his life is complex. I mean, you can't sugarcoat it. It is what it is. It's his life. He lived it.
I don't think it's his life. I think it's his ex-wife.
Right, okay.
Who wants to make it her story.
Okay.
Because I read her book, A Fallen Angel, which was a good book, but Richard was abusive, and she wants it to be more about that. And I met with Jennifer, and I was like, look, Richard Pryor is Malcolm X with punchlines. That's how black people see him.
Yeah.
lose their minds if they made this movie about you.
It ain't gonna fly.
You are a minuscule part of Richard Pryor.
Correct.
To us. So you do yourself a disservice trying to make it this.
Now, I can't speak to the truth of the conversations that went on between Damon and Jennifer Lee. Did she really want the whole movie to be about her, or is that his perception from her simply feeling Pryor's abuse should be included? It wouldn't be the first time a man's violence towards women was omitted from a story involving his life put to screen. Just as family can create a whitewashed version of their loved one's life, so can fans who revered them. When it comes to the scope of an entertainer, the personal is just as important as the professional. It is the very element that makes a biopic engaging. But again, when the people left to speak about you, for you, are clouded by their own biases and ego, they inadvertently strip away the complexity of the person to cling onto whatever legacy they deem best.
I'm sorry to interrupt, I'm sorry, but I don't know, you come here, okay, with maybe your opinion, and you tell me who Samuel was and what we were going through. But what you say is just, it is just a little part of the whole situation, you know. I mean, sometimes a couple is kind of a chaos and everybody is lost, no? And sometimes we fight together and sometimes we fight alone and sometimes we fight against each other. That happens. And I think it's possible that Samuel needed to see things the way you describe them, but if I'd been seeing a therapist, he could stand here too and say very ugly things about Samuel, but would those things be true?
I bring all this back to my admiration for Why Do Fools Fall in Love, as I find it's a beautiful fake biopic that communicates all these ideas. People bring out different sides of you. They encounter different versions, and that truth lives within everyone. All this talk of people unable to handle complex fictional characters when real public figures are nothing but complex, whether that's acknowledged in a movie or not. Like Ray, someone can be a victim just as much as they are a perpetrator. And no matter how difficult it can be to silence your own ego, I think one of the most respectful things in someone's death is honoring both of those truths. There's a scene in Dawson's Creek where Andy has to give a eulogy for her classmate Abby that was essentially an antagonistic character. And throughout the whole episode, she's struggling to find something nice to say. Her boyfriend's solution is just to lie. But she doesn't. She does something else.
They will pick me up when I fall and hold me in their arms as I cry and tell me that everything is going to be all right. I am so thankful for these people. They are priceless. But there is another group of people just as important and just as priceless. They are the people who challenge me, who push me to my breaking points, and who forced me to muster courage I never thought I had. Abby Morgan was one of those people. In her own truth-telling way, she gave me strength. I'm a stronger woman because of her, stronger than I ever thought that I could be. She gave me that gift. She was one of a kind. There's no one like her. And she will always hold a special spot in my heart.
Mind you, this is after Jen, Abby's only friend, who is riddled with grief, gets up there spouting how she was basically a bitch. And she was. What both girls end up saying is true. It's true of Abby, and both stayed true to themselves. What I find so fascinating about this genre, whether the person is here to tell their own story or not, it is impossible to escape the framing of one's own bias or self-perception. There is enormous responsibility placed on them, rightfully so, because you're detailing the life of a real person. But even then can only be viewed through a narrow scope of truth. It's one of the reasons why getting it right is so damn difficult. Do you cover someone's entire life or a moment in time? What about them are you trying to highlight? Their talent, foresight, historical influence? Is their story a tragedy for them or their actions upon others? Well, that's not a difficult question. It really depends on who's telling it, right? For most of us, our own legacy will only live on through the people we've surrounded ourselves with. The good, the bad, and the Oscar. I mean ugly. Despite biopic fatigue, they're not going anywhere. I just hope we get more that show the complexity of what makes a person, especially figures that weren't a biopic to begin with. Like, let's be real, they're not giving these out to everyone. And instead of playing it safe, I think you owe it to them. As Freddie Mercury said, don't make it boring.